difficulties.
And so she can make faces at you.
Yeah, right. Now you can tell who has high-speed internet by how clear your picture is, right?
Mhm.
How many do we have to have a quorum?
5, 3,
4,
4. Okay.
Oh, okay, worse, okay.
Mhm.
right. The majority of 7 is 4. So we do
Okay.
have a quorum now. If
Bob
I
may
haven't
have to
heard
write
from you,
words
but-
and tell us yes or no.
Mhm.
Let me-
Jerry's internet is slow too.
Yeah, and I know but I was trying to find out. Looks like it's almost that time.
yes, I've
Okay,
been notified. I've been notified that we are live. So Jerry, whenever you're ready to
Okay.
start the meeting.
I now call the January the 19th Yelm Planning Commission meeting to order. It is 4 p.m. Tammy, could you take a roll call of the commission members?
Yes, Jerry Fugich.
Here.
Ann Warmond,
I'm here.
John Thompson,
Here,
Bob Howard,
raise your hand, Bob.
and John Graver.
I don't hear John.
No, he's got his thing cut off and it's got a picture of the mountains in the top of his head.
Also, I did receive a request from Carlos Perez to be excused from today's meeting.
There's John.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve the agenda for today's meeting.
I would approve the agenda for today's meeting. Motion.
Second.
Second. And, okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Have you all had a chance to review the minutes from the October 19th, 2020 meeting? If so, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from October 18th for the Planning Commission.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Motion carried. Public comments and communications. I think that's your PowerPoint. Is that it there?
Yes, what's missing on the agenda was the
Pledge of
flags.
allegiance.
Where's that in Yelm?
Yeah, that was Yelm during the Great Flood. You missed it.
Yeah,
We received no public communication
we
specific.
can do pledge now if you want to put the flag back up.
Mhm.
Do the
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United
Flag.
States of America and to the
to the
republic
republic for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
Nation.
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
Yeah,
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Okay, thank you. Now, we can go to the next screen.
Then the next screen.
IT is working on it. As I informed the commissioners earlier earlier before the meeting, I am going to turn my video off to prevent internet struggles or freezing. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my video off. But you have before you PowerPoint that I'm going to go over. On the public communication, I don't know if it cut out. I don't have any specific communication for today's meeting, except for the comprehensive plan update requests that we've received the end of last year to be reviewed this year. So what I have today, the PowerPoint I'm going to show you today is informational only. There'll be no action taken today. I just want to put out there specifically the request for rezones, where the rezones are located, and to list some items that we need to look at to think about when we begin the analysis of whether to approve or not approve the rezone requests. So go to the next page. We received 2 requests this year to rezone property. We request a request from a property owner on 20 acres that is located between Mountain View and Killian Road. It's zoned C1 commercial, and that property owner requests to rezone that property to residential zoning. We also received a request for property owners within the industrial zone area, and it's in the red box to the right. That is 49 plus acres, so approximately 50 acres that have been requested to rezone from industrial to residential.
Mhm.
Next page. So in the industrial rezone, they've requested the residential zoning. It is 49.27 acres, and the residential zoning would allow up to 296 dwelling units if we rezoned the specific property from industrial to R6 moderate density residential. Next page. So when we're looking at rezoning property, there's several things that we need to do and a lot of analysis behind the scenes. And the first is to make sure that the rezone is compatible with our comprehensive plan. And in doing so, we also need to look to make sure that the rezone is compatible with surrounding properties. Some of that is the development potential, the development issues or potential for industrial development versus residential development. We'll need to look at what the loss of industrial property means to the city. And then we'll also need to look at the impacts of adding that additional residential development to the city. And the same thing goes for the commercial, changing it from commercial to residential, what it means to lose that much commercial land and the impact of the additional housing. And some of the impacts to infrastructure that we'll be reviewing over the next couple of months will be the impacts to our water and sewer system. Our water system plan shows that residential uses use more water per day than commercial and industrial. We need to look at our infrastructure planning to make sure that our water and sewer system plans, stormwater plans, transportation plans are adequate and will support the change in zoning, or is the impact going to require us to change and update our system planning? Things like fire flow, sewer basins, which lines in the area go directly to the sewer plant, or if new sewer basins would need to be created. And then also the capacity of our water and sewer systems. In regards to transportation, we have street classifications that are determine the number of cars and the amount of use and impact to the roads. We'll need to look at our street classifications to see if we can handle that type of change, whether we need to look at changing those street classifications. One of the items in the industrial zone we'll be looking at is access to our main arterials and the Yelm Loop. When we look at our rezone, we'll be looking at the future zoning. So the areas in our urban growth area that have been pre-zoned, which is part of our joint comprehensive planning documents with the county. And then also, and again, the transportation impacts of the change in the uses. Next slide. So I'm just kind of throwing out some items too that we'll need to bring into our review is we did in 2001, we did an industrial study. That industrial study showed that there were lots of industrial and business park land available more closer to the I-5 corridor in Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater. And knowing that it would be some time before that industrial market would make it to Yelm. And that study also provided a few different scenarios to look at. I would like to go into that in more detail when we begin the actual analysis. And then some of the comprehensive plan goals and policies that we'll be looking at is our land use goals for adopting industrial lands to meet community need and future needs, our utility goals to make sure that we plan ahead for this type of development or the change in development, and our transportation goals to make sure that our system improvements are in line with our zoning and our land use patterns. Next slide. So in the industrial zone, the blue shaded area, or the industrial zone that's with the blue shaded lines, is the area the property owners have requested to rezone. But the dotted area on either side of that is our future zoning in our urban growth area. And that future zoning is for industrial uses as well. So if we're going to look at possibly rezoning the area that they've requested, then it's going to throw a little bit of a kink in our future zoning, especially on the south side, where on the south side of NP Road, if we rezoned our industrial area to residential, then there would be an island or a landlock of industrial uses with residential on both sides. So that's something we'd need to look at in the possibility of rezoning the property that was requested. The other item to look at, and we'll have to go into deeper, is the property to the north of the proposed rezone area that is future zoned industrial. And the fact that knowing that the loop was coming in, Canal Road, where it follows the industrial land, is going to be a dead end or a cul-de-sac when the loop is constructed, and there's going to be no access to the loop from Canal Road. It would be from Wilkinson Road at the roundabout. The other item for that is because that road is considered a local access residential street, there are individual driveways that access Canal Road, and you can see the residential parcels that front the road. Those all of those lots have driveway accesses directly across from our industrial, or the future, the UGA pre-zoned area. Next slide. So in looking at the rezone, we have a few options. And of course, there's always option number one of taking no action and leaving the industrial zone area as industrial land. The next option would be to just rezone the area requested, which is that shaded area there. Again, like I said earlier, while that could work, it does pose a little bit of a problem with the future zoning of industrial between residential both uses on both sides. It kind of creates a barrier or a land block. A third option to be considered would be to take that area and zone it residential. And while on the map, it looks like that makes total sense. If it was all residential, there's separation in uses. That's, again, through the analysis, we'll be looking at if we lose that much industrial land, both in our current and our future zoning, what does that mean for possible future industrial uses? And then also we do happen to have an existing use out there, which is an auto repair facility that would be incompatible with our residential zoning if and when it was annexed into the city. The fourth option to be considered would be to include the property to the north. And the property to the north is again where I was discussing that Canal Road. Grant, if you can point. Yes, Canal Road there is a local access residential street. It's got single family homes with driveways, several driveways across the street from this industrial zone. These land, the industrial zone here in the UGA would not have direct access to the loop, they would have to come down to the intersection of Canal and Wilkinson and hang a left and get up to the loop. So development of these parcels as industrial, it's just a consideration to look at on if we were going to change our industrial lands, where best it should lie. I know that's a lot of information. There's a lot of things to consider. Looking at rezone requests takes a lot of analysis, and it takes a lot of thought to make sure that while we look at one area, that we don't cause negative impacts to another area. And then overall, what is the best result in the zoning? And one of the main items that we want to make sure is if we do consider rezoning any or all of these options to residential zoning, what does that leave us for industrial land and possible industrial growth? When we get into the detailed analysis, I'm going to have a map that will show you the properties right now that are already developed as industrial, that have land use applications to develop as industrial, and what the future or possible redevelopment of any parcels might look like. But that's going to come in the near future in the detailed analysis. Any questions so far?
Tammy, I have a question in terms of the transportation and access, and it looks like we haven't really talked about that, but that area also has the trail and the railroad, the existing railroad going through it. If you're right next to the NP road, but if you're coming at the requested property development from Railway Road, that's already residential all back there, except for TNP Automotive, as you indicated. So I'm wondering if the transportation access to that entire development area could be strictly from Railway and not from NP, the NP road, if that's even possible or feasible to do. Not that I want more traffic on that road, but in a sense, it starts to look a little bit different because the end of Railway is going to end right at a cul-de-sac at the new loop.
Okay,
there.
so Anne, I think you might be referring to Canal Road.
No, I'm referring to the railway that runs along the edge of that entire proposed development.
Oh,
that-
I see where you're correct. The cul-de-sac on the other end of Railway too.
Right.
I got you. Thank you.
So that if the access to that new proposed development, residential development, was from Railway and not from the NP road, then it gives it a whole different, to me, it really separates it from the industrial area, except for the little stretch that's right there with TNP Automotive that's at that corner of Canal and Railway.
If I can jump in, Tammy, when the residents out there
My
came,
my internet dropped off. And on this one right here, what you're talking about is the area with the lines through the purple. Is that correct?
Tammy?
Jerry. Okay. Go ahead, Grant.
no,
So, Jerry, the discussion we were having was transportation access to the residential area south of NP Road, and which would be south of the trail. And it's the area that Grant is circling with.
Yeah, okay. No, I just look at the whole area, and it looked like, you have the fiberglass plant in there and that, and it was just the area with the red lines through it is the area we're talking about rezoning. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So Ann, when the property owners came to council and initially requested this to be taken a look at, the reason I indicated it would be a good discussion for the Planning Commission was the changes that's happened with the rail line over time.
Yeah.
Access to that industrial area originally was intended to be through the rail line with rail dependent sort of uses. Now that we've made the decision as a city to move towards trail only, what you're talking about makes a lot of sense. And I think that's one of the reasons that I suggested to the applicants that they try to get it on the docket so that we can have that discussion, because things have changed since it was originally zoned. Just like you said, there's no real good industrial access to those industrial properties except the rail line.
Right, exactly. And there's already residential, well, I drive that way every time I drive. So
Mhm.
it's the property as it exists today, between Canal and First Street on Railway is residential. I mean, residential with a lot of open fields. Open,
And
and
a
just
lot of wet.
a lot of brush, a lot of just open field areas.
Yeah.
And major Puget Power site that's in the middle of it as well.
Right.
But-
Oh, I'm sorry, Ann. And a lot of that is as it should be with our comprehensive plan and joint planning with the county, in that property out there currently is zoned rural residential 1 unit, 5 acres. So it is all in a residential use. And then, but it is pre-zoned as industrial. So again, these are the exact kind of conversations that we'll need to have and the analysis that we'll need to do, and great points to bring up with the access in trail and the loss of rail to our industrial zone.
So that was my only question, is that the original perspective that I had implied that the access to this new development would be from NP Road. But I'm going, it doesn't seem to me that it would be. That's actually a pretty strict border there with the trail. So, but I don't know if you can access just an entire residential area from just one major feeder road of railway. So I'm done.
Any other further comment, questions?
How many, I'm sorry, Tammy, how many in just the section, not the striped section that's above or north of NP, but the one that's south of NP, did you have a figure specifically to that for how many homes could be built, or they were planning for?
Well, if I remember correctly, when I first started creating my maps, I believe it included the properties to the north. It was a total of 126 acres, which was 726 homes.
Okay.
If we take out the 15-20 acres to the north, that's 100 acres that would be rezoned. That would be up to 600 homes.
Hmm.
Probably in that 500 to 700 range.
Right. Yeah, I could see how railroad might get a little overwhelmed.
Well, Railway
Road.
Road is going to be very different once the loop is in. because it won't be a through road. It's it'll be that intersection of canal and railway. That's where you'd have to really look at the traffic. It's already it's an intersection that gets a lot of traffic these days, and that's how they would access the loop, is to get on canal and go down to Wilkeson Road to get on the loop.
So yeah, you've exactly pointed out a lot of issues that need to be looked at and analyzed pretty closely through our transportation plan, through the projected development, how many houses there's going to be, and then the future development of the other properties as they develop out.
It would almost look like if you were adding that many homes, that you might have to consider another access to the loop there because of the congestion if you had over 700 homes added to an area that originally was an industrial complex with not that much traffic in comparison.
Well, I would definitely say that we would explore what that would mean. I do know that the Department of Transportation has determined that this would be a limited access highway, and that having residential access outside of what's already proposed is what's been reviewed through the environmental documents and so forth. And finding additional access onto the loop may prove difficult, if not impossible. If there's no more questions right now on the rezone, knowing that we've got a lot of work ahead of us with the analysis of this, move on to the next slide. This pretty much kind of already said what we said, but I think a lot of the question I have when I was looking at that outside of transportation issues are the loss of industrial property, and then what's left for industrial uses. And if times have changed, do we still need to protect our industrial land? Because if we do take away that much, there's very little left for development or redevelopment. We won't belabor water and sewer. On the commercial zone, it's a little bit different in that we have one person requesting to rezone 20 acres from commercial C1 zone to moderate density residential. 20 acres of residential R6 would equal 120 units, dwelling units. The looking at the impacts to transportation, water and sewer, those I don't think are going to be huge issues due to the fact that Killian Road is already complete, Mountain Road is being complete with other development, and the intersections at Killian is already improved and Mountain View has already been reviewed and approved. So in looking at this, it would basically be making sure that reviewing our retail trade study, what we have, thinking about what the future might be for retail, is losing 20 acres of retail land. What is the positive or negative impact to that? If we go to the next slide, while I didn't put it, I'm sorry, I thought there was another map. I must not have added my second map. The other item I was looking at on this one is directly to the east on Killian Road. Grant, if you could show that commercial property to the right of that, right there, that 10 acres is zoned commercial. And if we rezone, if we consider the rezone of this 20 acres, would it be feasible to look at and see if the property owner on the east side of Killian Road would want to, or would it be best to change that to a moderate density residential as well? The 10 acres to the south of that piece right there, that one I think would be questionable if it should be brought into a consideration. The properties to the south of it are commercial zoned and prime for future development. We also have in our transportation system plan to extend the road between Coates and Killian Road, which would provide excellent access to the second commercial piece if it develops. So again, this one is not as much the transportation. I'm not going to say the transportation and water and sewer impacts, infrastructure impacts probably aren't as great or need as detailed analysis. However, looking at making sure that the properties adjacent to it are compatible, making very logical zoning changes, that would be the course I would suggest that the Planning Commission look at for the commercial rezone. And here I just threw in some information. The 2005 retail trade study did show that we had an even balance of current and future needs, commercial needs, land available. The study suggested that Yelm be a dominant center for convenience or comparison retailing to Thurston County. So we do need to realize that in South County, Yelm is going to be the more ease and availability of shopping. But again, that plan was done in 2005 and has circumstances changed after 15 years. So with today's environment and so forth, there's some good conversation I think that we need to have regarding this. So that's, oh, there's my map.
It was hidden there.
It was in there, it just was in the wrong spot. So yeah, making sure there's logical boundaries, looking at existing development, looking at the streets and future development, and making sure that if we do look at a possible rezone, what it's going to mean and how it's going to affect the overall development of that portion of the city.
Tammy, could you send that PowerPoint out to all of us? I lost my internet connection and missed half the communication, so I'd just like to be able to see it.
Of course, Jerry, I'm sorry. Yes, I will send out the PowerPoint after the meeting. And then again, as I said, today was really an informational meeting. The other items that are going to come up this year are our development and design standard review request. And those were requests to allow drive-through establishments in our central business district with the possibility of having those drive-throughs be reviewed as types of uses, suggesting that a pharmacy has a different drive-through or traffic impact than a fast food restaurant might have. We have a request for somebody from a property owner to increase our residential density that's allowed in our commercial zones as part of mixed use development. In fact, specifically wanting to go from 16 units per acre up to 32 units per acre. We have some design standards that folks are requesting that we take a look at, such as allowing chain link fences for different uses that require them for safety, as opposed to just trying to keep people out. Reducing or reestablishing areas where self-storage and RV is allowed. That we have a design standard that it needs to be 500 feet off an urban arterial. We have been requested to take a look at that again. Explore regulations to allow tiny homes or other alternate types of housing. I think we did a really good and in-depth review of our zoning code, our unified development code, that we updated to allow to try to get some varied housing. And I've actually had several pre-submission meetings and conversations with folks that are looking to do either doing the planned residential development or townhome development to be able to get the density bonus. So I'm glad that there's at least there's talk and consideration. Hopefully some of those will move forward. We were requested to explore fee waivers for nonprofit or subsidized housing, and then also to expand our design standards to make it even easier to allow accessory dwelling units. So while we did a lot of that review before, we can go through and either confirm that what we have is good or whether we do need to change that. But all of this is coming forth over the next few months.
Good.
I think, as I told you, a couple months ago in October at our last meeting, that we were going to have a very busy year ahead of us. And as you can see, a lot of this review and analysis is going to take some time and attention to detail. And I will forewarn you that the city's got a handful of development applications in. And when you have that, you have some time deadlines, and that you have to get certain notices done, staff reports done, pre-submission meetings done, and our hands are pretty full. So as you can see, even with this PowerPoint, that was a lot of work to be able to present it, to show the land areas, the future zoning, and so forth. So while I'm not asking for sympathy, I am going to ask for your understanding that through the next couple of months, as we get through these development applications, that we can have our meetings and try to get through this. And I will do my best to make sure that you have all the information you need. But we're busy.
Sounds like it. Well, you know,
Big
Go ahead,
thing
George.
is I think we're on the planning commission want to be involved. And if we have paperwork and things that we can be doing, I think we would like to be doing those things. And that's, why we signed on. Also, my term, I believe, as chairman should be up this year. I'm not sure if the vice chair wants to move up, but if for some reason we have to put it on hold, I will take it for another year. But I think that needs to be sorted out. And I believe there are some members of the Planning Commission and whose terms are just about up. And I believe we're going to ask them if they would stay on for a little longer until we can kind of get that part sorted out. And that was kind of stuck in, it was supposed to have been at another portion of the meeting, but I wanted to get that out.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. We do have, with 2020 being it wasn't a great year for many reasons. And so there are commissioners whose terms have expired, and yes. And we also have the fact that our bylaws say that the vice chair will step up. Due to all the craziness of the past year, what I would like to ask is if the Planning Commission, if your commissioners are willing to stay on with where you're at until we can get through getting things updated. And Jerry, if you're willing to stay in as chair, I think that would be beneficial to us all. And so if I can have your consensus that you'll hang in there with me and we can get this straightened out, and hopefully that you'll be willing to serve for more terms.
We'll hang in.
I am.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, so everybody's on board, looks like that, and so am I, and so we can move on. But if you have anything for us to do, we want to be gainfully employed.
Speak for yourself, Jerry.
Yes, be careful what you ask for. I might pass on this.
Yeah, I know. I've got a couple other committees I'm on that keep me off the streets and out of the bars.
Hey, Tammy, that one last section was talking about, converting some of the commercial into residential. Should we maybe take a look at seeing what commercial is left out there, and maybe having some of us or group of us saying what kind of commercial do we want and expect to come into Yelm,
Mhm.
in the near future, and how much of commercial space will that need to be taken up?
John, that's a really good point. I know that last year we were starting some work to update that retail trade study. As it being 15 years old, I'm not sure where that study is at the moment in being complete, but I do know that we've had a little bit of background and mapping work done. I can try to pull up what was provided to them on what commercial land is already developed and what's left over. And then we can look at kind of how that report looked at the commercial land and what's expected. And does our bank of commercial land for either vacant or for redevelopment, is it adequate or is it more than what we need?
I kind of look at the article in the newspaper where you have in the dollar or whatever it is store that's going in here. Why didn't it go in Yelm? I mean, glad to see Rainier get something, but those are jobs for the people, the residents of the Yelm area that are buying houses, which will help John Graver make money.
Well, speaking of that, I think that you all are getting, I've been including you in the notices of applications for development that's occurring within the city. We have some activity in the residential side. We have the application for Popeyes drive-through restaurant, pre-submission meeting with a commercial property owner of 3 to 4 acres that was looking at bringing other uses in, possibly restaurants, retail. We have an industrial user coming in with an application in the industrial zone for a cabinet manufacturing company. Cool. And I think the rest of the applications that we have are pretty much residential, but it's moving forward and things are happening. So there are jobs coming, and then hopefully, especially like I said, with some looking at the townhouse development and the planned residential development and getting the density bonuses, hopefully that will bring in a little more affordable housing, or that missing middle that we determined that we had.
And if I can tag on a little bit, the other thing that we're kind of looking forward to is taking a look at what the landscape looks like post-COVID, and if any tweaks need to be made to, is retail going to change? Is the nature of, how we do business going to change? It's probably not time for that right now. We need to kind of get through the thing to see how it shakes out. But we are planning for that to start that process in 2022, and which will inform the next comp plan update shortly thereafter. So that is something we've got on our radar, just to see if there's an actual sea change here, and we need to plan for it and get ahead of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with Grant that, I do a lot of, being at home most of the time, I try and keep up on web education and all the rest. I really try to get into forecasting of, what people think is going to happen in the future. And of course, everybody has an opinion. But it'd be nice if any of us find, any kind of classes, and I'll be glad to take them, but any kind of classes that talk about small cities and where, because of this COVID and because of everything being done online, where, what is actually going to go into those small cities, where are we headed? And maybe, if we're going to become just a bedroom community, how much industrial do we really need? Those are the things that I'm thinking about, that's all.
One thing that I think, well, John, you definitely know about it. John Graver, that the housing market, at least in Olympia, it's going through the roof.
Same here, Ann.
And so people are really, really looking to buy property and to buy residential property in this area. And so people are starting to look at where they live much more than where they work, because they work out of their homes. And many companies are just going to continue that.
Yes, Ann's right, yeah.
So So it does change things, but I also think that Grant was right that with the railroad, the rail line next to that industrial area is not going to be used as rail. But there is a recreational trail right there. That to me indicates a bit of change to at least a portion of that industrial. You know, it seems like it's more appropriate to have the residential next to the trail rather than assume that we're going to go with the same old strategy as if the rail line was going to be used. So there's a lot of, it's sort of looking at the different, what's the different trajectory, you know, and reading, I don't know, are there ways that people are actually going to be reading the tea leaves of where we're going to go next at this? But I think it is going to be different than we've had before. But people are still looking for homes. Like, I mean, they're selling at a lot more than asking price. So.
Or every one of them has multiple offers.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Mhm.
But the other thing,
to
well, the one last thing was, we're kind of, with all these homes we have out here, we've really got a segment that's what I'm going to call in the middle. We're not providing a lot of homes for elderly, and we're not providing a lot of homes for the younger generation, I'm going to say.
Mhm.
The younger generation and the older generation are looking to minimize the amount of work they have to do around their homes, which leads to condominiums, townhouses, all the rest, as opposed to continuing to build, you know, single family homes. So I don't know if anybody's come over saying, hey, we'd like to do some condominiums or, you know, townhomes, but you know, that'd be wouldn't be a bad thing for us to get into, to bring in a little bit different segment of the market. Sorry, Grant.
That is real big in Spanaway, because I still work for Bethel School District. And primarily out in that whole area are condominiums and very large condo developments that have everything within those developments.
Right.
Cami, do you want to speak to the kind of the shift that we're seeing?
Well, trying to read your mind, I think that the shift that I'm seeing right now greatly is the desire to build apartments in the higher density residential. And so we've got a lot of activity there. We've got apartments that are under construction right now, and several pre-submission meetings for more apartments. And then as well, like I said, I've had a couple pre-submission meetings and a couple phone discussions on some parcels that are coming available that might be a little more challenging to develop due to size or frontage. And they're going to look at doing the townhomes to be able to get not only the density bonus, but to be able to squeeze more units on that parcel. So yeah, the shift is moving to that higher density.
And even we're seeing a bunch of duplex units go in, so which is another, you know, unheard of thing very recently. So to John's earlier point about finding classes and stuff, do just all keep in mind that we do have a travel and training budget for the Planning Commission. So if there is anything that you see out there that you're interested in, let us know and we'll get you connected up.
Oh, good, because I think there's one in Hawaii.
Too bad there's a travel ban. Sorry, John.
Yeah, you can't leave Thurston County.
Well,
funny that
ride
you
John's
say-
little Japanese truck.
John, I can't tell you how many training opportunities I had in California and Hawaii and Arizona that Grant tore in half.
Yeah.
I don't know why, I just couldn't get him to approve those.
I know. It was probably those beach amenities.
Yes. Yeah.
Or maybe something like solid waste didn't have a whole lot to do with in increasing my planning development career.
Thanks, Grant. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I think the next thing on the agenda was just subcommittee updates. And then if you have anything to bring forward to us, then.
I have nothing for the tree board.
And could you give us an update on the parks?
The one thing that we've got on parks is the Veterans Memorial. And I really think that Jerry and John Thompson can talk to that more, because I had asked them to, be the representatives to Cody on the redesign and the rework of that Veterans Memorial.
You want to talk, Jerry, or do you want me to talk?
You can talk.
Well, basically, just to update all of you, the Yelm Veterans Memorial in the city park was kind of a joint effort between the Chamber of Commerce and the veterans organizations. It involves memorial bricks. Also, we recognize those service members that have lost their lives that lived in the Yelm area. And of course, there's a permanent flagpole out there that flies 24 hours a day. And about 4 years ago, some guy that had a little too much booze drove into it and did damage to it. Cody notified us that there's about $70,000 to upgrade that. And so basically we had an initial meeting kind of to discuss the importance of keeping those things that are there. Like a lot of us, I know Jerry and I, with both our wives who have passed away, we have bricks with our names on it that we purchased through the chamber that are still there. And then there are service members there, and none of those bricks we would want to be lost. They're an important part of it. Concept-wise, we suggested that we get together with the local veterans organizations, particularly the Chamber or the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign Wars, both that have active membership within the city of Yelm, get their commanders on board, and we're scheduling another working meeting on the 19th of February, and probably about 10 in the morning, and then we'll get some word out so anybody that wants to put input. But obviously, we don't want to get carried away. You can overcome the part. Yeah, Jerry, any comments or?
Well, one of the things too is to remember that one monument that was put up relative to the to those lost and killed in action, that was made up, actually, I think paid for by Ray Shriver and John Williams. And it is important both to the other folks in Yelm, but also to the Native Americans, because there is a Native American, one of the important portions of the Nisquallies was killed at the Battle of the Bulge. So that we want to make sure that portion is not damaged, or that monument there with the feather on it.
Yeah, our idea is none of the monuments would be removed, and the only addition would be how you preserve right now the bricks are walked upon. People can go there and walk upon them and weather-wise, and Cody mentioned an idea of cleaning the bricks. And if any of them were damaged, replacing them. Jerry does have the name of the guy that engraved the bricks, and possibly he may be able to restore any that were damaged. But we're looking at it kind of, it doesn't have to be done overnight. I mean, the money is there, and so you get people getting input and everything else, come out with a plan, and then probably bring it up to the community of what we're doing.
So anyway, that's one of the things that's going on with Parks Board is now I've handed that off to John Thompson and Jerry Fugit to work with Cody, who's our new Public Works Director. But the other one is a dog park. And there's been a lot of interest in having a dog park. And I can't say that I know all the specifics, but I think there's something that's going before the council quite soon on some property that would be turned into a dog park and access to a dog park.
And do you want me to build on
Yes,
that a little
you
bit?
know that I didn't want to give away exactly where it was. I didn't know if we'd already purchased it or where we were in the process.
Yeah, the purchase and sale agreement will be approved at the next Tuesday council meeting. So
Okay.
you're good to go.
Okay. Well, you know better where it is exactly. I know the gist of where it is. So maybe Grant, could you describe?
Yeah, so the city purchased the industrial parcel between Public Works and the the water reclamation facility. It's a roughly 5-acre
Mhm.
parcel. The purpose of it, the underlying purpose of it, is to provide access to the water reclamation facility as that entire site gets upgraded and reconfigured with the water system upgrade or water reclamation facility upgrades. But they just need access for the water reclamation facility, which leaves a good amount of land that Pat Hughes over at Public Works has kind of drafted out a concept for a potential dog park there. So it looks like it all fits pretty well, and they're going to be proceeding with that once the property closes, which will be on Tuesday.
So then all you need to do is hook in fake fire hydrants for the dogs, right?
They'll be
Well-
reclaimed water. Yep.
Yeah, we have a whole lot of people that are using Longmire Park as a dog park. And we'd kind of like to encourage them to move over to a dog park once we have one. And people really want to. I mean, they want to have a dog park, and it'll be close enough to where the new trail is going to be. Or where the current trail is actually, to get through there. So it's I think it's all going to be a good solution.
I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of grass to cut. If we're talking about maybe 4 acres.
Yeah. Oh, and so we'll have to see what the actual plans for the fire hydrants and water and whatever else is that Pat Hughes comes up with, for how to actually configure it, and whether there are health department stuff we have to do. There's a number of things that you have to do for a dog park, but it's in the works. And that's all I have. I don't have a trail update unless Grant does.
We don't have an update other than we kind of know what's happening and when we will have a decision. We scored really well, but at the really it's at the cusp where they normally run out of funding. So it's kind of 50-50 at this point, which is the bad news. The good news is there's an effort to increase the amount of funding available for these types of facilities, but we won't know that until after the session. So RCOs put off the decision-making process until this summer when they know how much money they have. If there is an increase, I would say we're a shoe-in to get that funded.
Right. It kind of goes along with that. 2020 is a bad year for.
Yeah.
Because in terms of input, I mean, revenues coming into the state.
Yeah. And just on the local side, both those projects are budgeted for the city match in the 2021.
Yeah.
Wow. 2022 biennium budget.
So keep your fingers crossed, everybody. You know, it's that time. That's all I had, Jerry.
Okay. So I guess that'd be any other committee reports? I guess we'll go to the order. Bob, you can do wig-wag and tell us if you have any information you want to share with us. Okay. John?
Nothing.
John Thompson?
Nothing.
He doesn't. Ann? Anything else?
Hmm.
John Graver?
Nope, all good.
John, I just want to thank you for your insight relative to real estate business. I think the more information we got to that would help us make some very logical choices. As an example, the house next door to me sold in 4 days.
Mhm.
And I would never figure it would sell, but it sold. And it's a nice house, but not for me.
Yeah.
Brad, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Tammy?
No, the only thing that I would like to add is I just want to thank you all for your commitment, for being here, for working with me, and also for being open to continuing on as we get through these weird times. So thank you very much for that. And I look forward to a lot of hard work in the upcoming months.
Okay, thank you very much, Tammy, and I appreciate all the hard work you and the staff at the city are doing.
Yes.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Or do you
I'll
want to stay
second.
here all night? Okay. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much for the meeting.
Mhm.
And I have just called Consolidated to find out what's wrong with my internet connection.